But while I was in Texas, I heard another joke that I have to share with you guys today. So there was this old Texas farmer, stingy old man, hoarded his money all of his life. He'd saved about $50,000. And he was quite old, and so just before he passed away, just before he died, he made sure to tell his wife, now when I die, you bury my $50,000 with me. Agreed? Well, she wasn't too happy about that, but she agreed. She was a dutiful Texas wife. And so at the funeral, just before they closed the lid on that casket, she walked up there with this pretty little ornate wooden box, and she slipped it into the coffin, the casket, if you will. They closed the lid, and she walked off the little platform, and her friend said to her, well, surely you didn't just bury the money with him, did you? And she said, well, I am a Southern Baptist woman. Absolutely I did. I wouldn't lie to you about that. And so her friend said, you mean to tell me you just buried $50,000? And she said, oh, yes, I did. I wrote him a check. I want to talk with you all today about Jubilee. From a biblical perspective, you might have heard me say this a few weeks ago, but from a biblical perspective, that concept of the Jubilee really comes from when Moses was called upon through inspiration to climb Mount Sinai and go to the top of the mountain to commune with God. And God gave Moses the premise, I want you to return, tell your people I will return everything to them on this 50th year of celebration. So every 50 years, the people of Israel were to receive a blessing from God. You see? And so that's when the ram's horn was blown. That's where it all comes from, Jubilee and the ram's horn. And so the premise was this. If you had sold your land to someone so that you could benefit financially from it, and maybe you lent it to them for an interest rate, then that money would all be returned back to you as well as the land. So it was to return back to you. If you were a slave, you were released. Unusual, we never hear about that. The slaves were released and they were sent back to their families wherever they came from. Everything that all of the debts that you had accrued in your family's comings and goings, those were all forgiven. Very interesting. Everything was basically returned back to its point of origin. And that was really the celebration, the Jubilee, that God is an abundant God. So the Israelites were to receive everything back to its point of origin. And so the people were actually celebrating what they called God's abundance for humanity. So it really spread out beyond all people, beyond the Israelites to all people. Now, metaphysically, when I was meditating on what does this really mean for us today? What does it mean 2,000 years ago in South Florida, when this was probably covered in dinosaurs or something 2,000 years ago, right? I don't know what was here. It may be Indians. But 2,000 years ago, the concept was that God is an abundant God. And for metaphysicians, what I came to realize in meditation, what Spirit showed me was this. Our Jubilee is our understanding, is our celebrating that there is no death. We understand there's no death, that life is eternal. We understand that thing called death that we always hear about in hospices and on TV and in magazines, that thing called death is the closing of a chapter in that great book of life that is eternal. Moving from one place of existence to another place of existence. A state of consciousness to another state of consciousness. Moving from the physical world into the spirit world. It's all an eternal journey. A Jubilee. The celebration of Jubilee also talks about, when we talk about the state of Jubilee, we understand that all the life challenges, all the difficulties in our life, those are spiritual lessons hidden in disguise. Isn't that interesting? And another Jubilee that I thought of was that we live in such a state of abundance in this world that what we give out to support places like this community, returns to us tenfold because we understand the law of attraction. We understand the law of giving and receiving, what they call that great law of reciprocity. Giving and receiving. What you give out comes back to you. If I give out love, I receive love. If I give out hate and bigotry and racism, it's going to come all right back to me. I'm going to live in a state of that bigotry, hate, and racism. Because it's all, the law of attraction is really just a provider. It provides whatever you place from the mind principle out into the universe, and it gives it right back to you. God bless you. So you got to be really conscious, cognizant of what you put out into the universe. Now, a couple of, is it December yet? No, it's November. So 1 month ago, Dr. Reggie Padine came to celebrate the theme of prosperity. And Dr. Reggie Padine in October really talked about the principles of abundance, but in a sense of our metaphysical teachings of prosperity, and how do we bring those into being. And really there were 2 words that he came up with in those 5 weeks that he spoke. Take action. Remember that? He said if you want to get out of the dumpsters of life and move into the prosperity of life, you've got to take action. We actually have a declaration of principle. I believe we said it a week or 2 ago, declaration of principle number 4, which talks about us taking personal responsibility. We believe in personal responsibility and that we create our happiness or unhappiness as we live in harmony or discord with natural, physical, and spiritual laws. That's what it says. So really what it's saying is we believe in personal responsibility, we believe in taking action. Did you ever think of that? Interesting. That's what that means. That's how simple it is. So taking action. Well, you know what that really is saying is we can no longer be spiritually lazy in life. You don't just sit around praying and hoping and putting crystals out in grids and hoping that your life will be transformed. You got to actually do something. You got to actually go and be selfless and charitable and giving and provide alms and provide food for people, provide clothing for people, provide volunteerism in your time, talent, and treasures to organizations like ours. You got to do something. Prayers are beautiful, but they don't help you evolve. They simply offer up goodwill and good intention and send up loving, supportive energies for the work that's being done. But again, I said that action word, work, didn't I? It all boils down to what do we do to have a great spiritual life. Right now, we have 15 churches and study groups. That's pretty amazing. And a study group in our church system just means it's a baby church. Maybe they have 5 or 10 people. Maybe they meet once or twice a month, but they haven't really accumulated enough movement and resources to make a place like this run. But they're on their way. We have 15 of those from Michigan down to Florida, east of the Mississippi River, all up and down this eastern seaboard in various cities and states. Mother Center is in Roanoke, Virginia, for those of you who don't know. Beautiful 22-acre property with a seminary, 4-year seminary program. There's a mediumship training program, a healing training program, all in certifications and some different academic opportunities. A wonderful program. Wonderful program. But out of all of those 15 churches and study groups that I just talked about, this chapel, you guys have become the example. This last convention, we were all the rage. We were all the buzz. Everybody was talking about what we were doing because they actually watch what we do from our website and our Facebook page. Facebook, that's right. That's what I meant to say earlier. During the service, feel free to Facebook Live. If you want to Facebook Live all this fun stuff we're doing today. But, you know, the fact that we're out there advertising and the fact that we're out there trying to put forward all these amazing speakers and these amazing events like we're doing today, we're actually spreading our teachings a little bit further out in the community and we're getting noticed. We're getting noticed. It's not because of me. It's because you showed up. Because you are creating community when you walk in these doors. That's how powerful it is. You know, we're setting a standard in the Metaphysical Chapel of South Florida. You guys have made it happen by getting out of bed, by showing up on a Sunday morning to create a sacred space like this that actually does transform lives to greatness. You made this happen, and actually now lots of people are watching what we do, and that's pretty incredible when you think about it. You see, we can no longer be, as I like to say, mushrooms on a log. We can't be moss on a rock. We got to take action. We got to be the passion flower vines that reaches out into this community and spreads our beautiful fragrance of kindness and service. That's what we need to be. You know, I want this church to be great. And on an average Sunday morning, not today is a Jubilee day, but on an average Sunday morning when we have 50, 55, 60 people, that's not greatness. It's nice. It's good. I can be honest with that. It's good. But it's not greatness. On an average Sunday morning when we have Sunday offerings that don't cover the basic weekly expenses, that's not greatness. Honestly, not greatness. On an average Sunday morning when we've got a one-person band up here and a fancy keyboard, that's not greatness. It's good, but that's not greatness. Even though he is sexy and handsome and all that, we love him. Still not greatness. He told me he'd pay me later. It's not greatness. Why do I say that? It sounds a little harsh, but I want to point something out to you. A day like today, if we could have that every Sunday, that's greatness to me. That's where I want to see this church go. That's the vision that I've had for quite a while. That we actually have a beautiful, I believe it's called, I don't know music, is that percussion? A drum? Okay, the drum set, the percussion set. Bear with me, I can preach, but I don't know music. But you know, how beautiful was that? I want you guys to listen. I was sitting up here, and I wanted to say it earlier too. Pay attention to how the music sounds today. Pay attention, use your psychic faculties to listen to this man who sings up here, Jonah. Listen to the energy of the drums as it wafts across you. Feel with your psychic centers how it transforms this space to a state of greatness. Because like I said, one man and a fancy keyboard, it fills the space to a degree, but it's not great. It's just good. And I want us to be great. And I know that we can be great. You know, we just got to step into our Jubilee of truth, if you will. We got to just step in and celebrate the transformative power of this amazing center of light. That's all we have to do. And so, but first what we got to do is we got to give. We got to give of our time as volunteers, give of our talents as leaders in this community. Step forward and share your resources. Contribute regularly to the chapel. In order to receive, you got to give. Simple fact. That's what we called, as I mentioned earlier, the law of reciprocity, the law of giving and receiving. Now, where are my Gold Star students at? What does the golden rule say? I know you know it. That's right. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Good. There's no one's dead here today. You're all alive. Love it. So why did I bring that up? Because if you, think of this, if you were a first-time guest today and you walked into this new sanctuary, what would you want? You would want people to welcome you. You would want people to walk up and share and be kind and warm with you. You would want people to join with you and accept you for who you are in just a beautiful, kind, selfless, loving way, if you will. You know, you would want people to be happy. And so when we see a first-time guest who walks through those doors on a Sunday morning, when they walk through, that's what I call a seeker. I'm not talking about the Harry Potter seeker, the little thing that flies through the air. A seeker. These people are seeking something when they walk through the doors. You know what they're seeking? They're seeking healing. A lot of us are damaged. I guarantee you, if I asked who in here is not damaged, not one hand would go up. We've all been damaged by something in life. People, places, and things. Even our own selves. We're harsh on ourselves sometimes, aren't we? Very cruel to ourselves. We don't even think about how we talk to ourselves sometimes. People are seeking healing. They're seeking upliftment. They're seeking metaphysical teachings. Maybe that's why they've Googled it and showed up to our church, because they really feel they need to move beyond whatever religion they're coming from and stepping into what they believe is their new truth, their new vibration. And so they walk into our space and they're seeking. They just, at the very core, if you think about it, they just want to be accepted. They just want to be accepted. And when they walk through those doors, that is our opportunity to welcome and to accept and to bring those people into the fold and give them a place of community on a Sunday morning. And if we only have 5 or 10 or 15 or 50 people here, we can kind of do it and kind of welcome those people into our homes. But if we have a regular number of 100, 150 people on a Sunday morning, that's a state of greatness. That shows vibrancy in a community. That shows life in a house of worship. That shows life in a house of healing. A place for seekers to come and feel just like they can be uplifted to the next level of greatness in their life, whatever that level is for them. That's what those people are seeking, and that's our job. When we can make those kind of people, those seekers, feel welcomed in our space, that's when we're creating a space that transforms lives to greatness. And bam, that's exactly what a Jubilee is all about. Right? That's what it is. That's what a Jubilee is. It's about a state of greatness and a state of abundance. Abundant hugs and welcomes and greetings to all the new people. And that's why we exist. That's why I have the lights on, and that's why I have this sermon prepared, music prepared, everything's prepared. So that those first-time guests, I don't prepare it for you guys, the regulars. I love you. I know you'll show up. I do it for the new people. And have you ever noticed when new people come, where do you see me? I'm always talking to the new people. Because you guys have my number. You can always bug me by phone and text and Facebook. But the new people, I want to welcome the new people. Those are so important to our future. It grows our community. They begin the process when we welcome them to set down roots in our community. So these are literally little bulbs that we're planting in our garden. And we have to nurture them and water them with kindness and welcoming and affirmation. It makes a beautiful garden for our community. Now, speaking of Jubilee, I asked Reverend Tim about probably 5-6 weeks ago to create a service like this, because back in, I think it was September 25th, we had Celebration Sunday. How many people were in here for that? Who was here? Quite a few of you. That's over half of you. That's very good. Remember the power of presence on that Sunday morning. There were probably 110 people in this auditorium. Now, we marketed the heck, and we made phone calls and emails and called people back. We did a lot of work to fill this space. We didn't do that much for today. But it goes to show you the power of presence. And when we make the effort as a community, and our volunteers get on the phone, and our board members get on the phone and the email and the Facebook, and we're trying to promote different things and share our community with those who don't know that we exist, look at the power of presence we had for Celebration Sunday. Look at the beautiful service we created here today. Just because I asked Reverend Tim 5 weeks ago, can you create me another service? Maybe not so big, but maybe just something that will get us prepared for the new year. Get us in that state of thinking of abundance to carry forward the principles of prosperity that we had learned in the previous month in October. And he made it happen. He took my vision that I cast and he made it happen. I thank you. You did a very good job, Tim. You know, if you'd like to see a very strong music program like we have today every week, what do you got to do? You got to give. You got to give time, talent, or treasure, something. You got to be a part of the process. And so when I say giving of the 3 T's, you always hear 3 T's. I think some books say 5 T's, which is testimony and talent. Testimony and talent. Those are some, no, not talent. Testimony and something else. I think temple. When you give of yourself to a community like this, you're actually putting fuel into a community. That's what that is, a fuel. Those 3 T's are your fuel. And so when we talk about fuel from this perspective of fuel, we actually understand that, well, I'll give you an example. Let's do this. When we feed the body temple, we are putting fuel in the body temple. We're putting good food, maybe organic food, or at least just healthy food. Maybe we're putting in, you have to put food in multiple times a day, 2 or 3 times a day, to keep that fuel supply going, keep the energy level going, right? And so that's regular contribution to the body. You have good contribution to the body. And so that body is able to move forward in a state of energetic upliftment and greatness in its own right. But when you start getting it off its schedule and stop placing that fuel, that investment of fuel into the body temple, it begins to fail. Eventually it will fail because you're just going to burn up all the energy. And really the same goes with the church. And even us looking for a new church building. If we're to qualify for a mortgage even next year, we got to begin the process now of putting fuel into the machine, if you will, of the church, or really into the spiritual body of the church temple, right? Because the banks all look at all that stuff. They want to know about volunteers. They want to look at contributions. They want to look at your fundraising schemes. They want to see your bank statements. They want to see your board of directors. They want to see your policy and procedure books. They look at and analyze everything. They want to see that you actually have a plan and you have a course of action. That you're actually placing fuel into the spiritual body of your temple, meaning the church, in an appropriate way, and that it has longevity. That it will not use up all the fuel quickly and fail. And that's something we have to think about. So when I or Reverend Tim or even the other speakers talk about, you got to show up to church on a more regular basis, not just once a month. That's why we have 4 churches, I say. We have 4 weeks. Every week is almost a different group of people. And so what I'm saying is we have to actually come and be a part of this community and support this community in a regular way so that when those seekers walk through the doors, they have a place of acceptance and they have a place of healing and upliftment and knowledge. They have a place of light and love. That's the beautiful part of it. The same goes for this chapel. Really, when I talk about the principles of giving, the time, talent, and treasures, some people say, ooh, you can't talk about money in a metaphysical church. That goes against what we believe. That's the fundamentalist and Orthodox churches. Wrong. Why do I say that? Because giving, what was that? What the Gold Star students, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Really at the core of that was giving and receiving. Right? That's the vibration. And so when I say that giving is not contrary to divine metaphysics, I mean that foundationally, if you will. The principles of giving and receiving are the very foundation of divine metaphysics. And actually, if you think about it and you want to push that around the world, it's the foundation of every world religion. Because they all came through divine revelation and inspiration. And at the core of every religion is serving the poor, selflessly, giving, supporting, in many ways, many, many ways. So you really have that principle of giving and receiving. Those are the foundations. And so we really need to take action as a community. We need to take and use our personal responsibility, if you will. Let's all, like my father always said, find a need and fill a need. He would say that till I was blue in the face. And he would say that because we lived on a farm that had a lot of work to do. So when I was complaining I was bored, that was his little quick response. Find a need and fill a need. I don't know if he learned that on Sesame Street or where, but I was sick of hearing it. Go find a need and fill a need. And it's interesting because that really applies to us in life. If you want to be great in your job, I guarantee you don't do what your job description says. You go beyond it. You'll find a need that is outside of your job description that you're allowed to do and fill that need. And then don't just stand there and boast about it, but graciously submit it to whomever for consideration. But you find a need and fill a need. And that you will become recognized very quickly because your light grows brighter. People will recognize you are a humble person and that you're willing to give selflessly into that community of the job, if you will, for example. Right? Very interesting. Because when I talk about that find a need and fill a need, it really has to do with we've already become the example because the other churches within our system are already looking to us and asking questions. I'm already getting emails and phone calls about what books did you learn from? What programs did your people take? Why are you successful? Why are there so many people coming to your church? Why are there so many international speakers coming and demonstrating and teaching at your center? How is that even possible? Because we found a need and we filled a need. I found what this community did not have, and I worked very hard to bring it to our community to fill that need. That's how easy it is. But what's amazing is I have to say I'm so proud of you all. Because it's not really just all about me. It's really about you. You all made this happen. You all brought your light, and now we have become the example within South Florida. The Metaphysical Chapel of South Florida has become the example, an amazing center of light that has actually been, if you think about it, transforming lives to greatness for some 40 years. We're entering, I believe, next year, our 40th anniversary. That's incredible when you think about it. The lives we have touched, the people whose fear we've taken away, and they no longer fear the concept, the change called death. They understand the principles of prosperity. They understand the power of healing prayer and how it does transform lives through upliftment, through surrounding with that magnetic or charismatic energy of whatever difficulty or difficult situation, which is really, as I said, a spiritual life lesson hidden in disguise. Spirit has said to me so many times, and when I've gone to spirit circles, when I've traveled to different places in the world to hear prophets and mediums and ministers speak, and Spirit has said through them to me, especially when there's a difficulty, the sun always shines behind the clouds. Never forget that. The sun is always shining behind the clouds of life. And that's what you have to understand, that when we have tragic and traumatic and difficult and you feel like you're walking up a mountain to get to wherever you feel you need to be going, but it's really difficult and you have to put a lot of effort, just remember there's a spiritual lesson buried within that traumatic or difficult situation, if you will. There's always a silver lining. There's always a silver lining to a situation. Find it. And if you can work to find it, I guarantee you, when you start doing that, you will start moving into that law of attraction because you have just found an abundancy in that moment of difficulty. You get that? That makes sense? When you start looking for the silver lining in the difficult situations in your life, and you start doing that, the minute you start doing that, you literally lock into the law of attraction. Abundance begins because that is an abundant principle, the silver lining principle. There's always a silver lining. The sun's always shining behind the clouds of life. And I just want to say, I'm so proud of you all for stepping forward, for contributing in so many different ways, and being volunteers, being leaders, being on committees, providing us with fundraising ideas, providing us manpower, women power for fundraisers, our psychic fairs. We just had a really successful psychic fair. You all made that happen, and I'm very proud of you all. You made that happen. Reverend Tim, I just want to say thank you for making this possible today, this Jubilee service. I cast that vision, and he made today a fantastic day, a day of greatness. It wasn't a good day. This is a day of greatness in my mind, in my consideration. Jonah and Daryl, I appreciate you guys for being here, because you all, as professional musicians, you don't bring a good show, you bring greatness to my church, and I thank both of you from the bottom of my heart for what you have brought today. The level of professionalism, we need to see more of that. But we got to contribute. We got to do something to make this happen on a regular basis. And I just want to say, friends, as my brothers, as my sisters, as my spiritual family, may God bless you all for helping the Metaphysical Chapel actually be the example within our church system that transforms lives to greatness. Amen? And women? All right. Namaste. Thank you, guys.